Hello, my name is Luckless, and I'm going to be showing you how to beat Shogi in the fastest way possible. So these strats will be used for all wins runs, as well as just Shogi ILs and stuff like that. The actual only one of the lines is going to be an IL, obviously, because there's only one that's actually the fastest. But there's some strats that are pretty close to being the fastest, not too far off, so let's get into it. So first of all, I didn't discover any of these strats myself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the strats in like the order that they were discovered. This isn't going to be like an overall world record history or anything. It's more just focusing on the strats, because if we go for a world record progression kind of thing, there's people like me that didn't actually come up with the strats myself, but I used them to record ILs. I want to give as much credit to the people that came up with the strats in the first place as possible. So, to start off with, when people approach Shogi at first, like with most games on Clubhouse, people tried using the easiest difficulty possible. So there's 4 difficulties on Shogi. The people started off testing strats on normal. The problem with this is normal is not consistent. Normal is actually completely random in Shogi. So if I did, let's say, this move, okay, this time it does a rook move, and then I start over, and I try it again.
Shall we play?
It actually did something different. So this is generally what happens. I just realized that wasn't actually a very good representation of how random normal is, but basically I'll add this in as well. If you need help beating normal to get to hard, then all I can give you is really this example right here from my All Masters run of Shogi. Basically I got this rook up on this file, and I brought my bishop out as well. And you basically just gobble all of the pieces on the side that you're attacking. You just make sure that everything's protected that you're going to be attacking with. And if something isn't protected, then you can place a piece from your sideboard to make things protected. You should be able to beat normal Shogi if you play it slow and just, as I said, gobble everything. You'll be fine. So because people found that normal was not consistent, they then tried the next difficulty up, hard. And something weird about hard is the RNG is actually fixed, and we get the same response from the CPU every single time. Shogi does have an undo button. If we make a move here, we can press L to undo.
Hold on.
But the thing is, it's just gonna keep making the same move every time. The RNG is fixed.
Hold on.
So this is what makes it ideal to use hard difficulty as the basis for making up strats for Shogi. In the past, if you made a mistake, you can undo, and it would still do the same thing. The first person to do a run on the hard difficulty was Ninworld. He came up with a few strats. One of them wasn't actually consistent, but it was a pretty funny thing he posted on the leaderboard where he brought his pawn all the way up to the right side and then across and just took pretty much every piece he could on the way, and then he used those pieces that he took to then attack the enemy king. And you know, it's funny looking at it now, but that's one way to beat the game, I guess. But that's not a strat that he stuck with for very long. He actually very quickly also found what is going to be one of the strats that you should, if you run this game, you will already know this strat. This strat has been the one strat for about a month now. Actually more than a month, maybe a month or two. And it starts with trying to get the CPU to make a rook move.
Shall we play?
Like this. So the strat is to jump in here with the bishop.
Rook, bishop.
Apparently the CPU doesn't take this bishop, even though it can with his bishop, but alas. We then continue, and we get the rook that we just took, and use it to checkmate.
Check. Surrender.
We actually don't need to promote the rook there, but I'm just showing for ease, I guess. So this has been the strat, as I said, for a month or two. During this time, it's been used for many all-wins runs. People have found a problem with the strat that is kind of rare, but it does happen. Just from the sheer amount of runs that have used this strat, there have been a few occasions where the CPU doesn't move their king one more time here. Instead they move their gold general, and what happens is people don't see that coming. They think, oh, I'll just keep doing the strat that I was going to do, which is moving the big bishop here, but that doesn't work. So during a 360 Chrism stream, where he was doing all wins, and he came up against this move, nobody had seen it before, pretty much. Pawn to Noob was in the chat, and he actually came up with a backup strat that allowed Chrism to not have to reset. And what it was is placing the rook early and taking this gold and then delivering a checkmate like that. It's faster to take with the bishop, basically, but in that case I did have to promote that because the king could have gone one space up if I didn't promote. So something to note about that backup strat is if you mess it up, you can't undo anymore, because since the patch v1.1.2 on July 28th, there was actually a change to Shogi that made it so if you got here, let's say you made this, let's say, okay, you put down the rook, but you accidentally took the wrong piece, and you're like, oh no, I did that wrong. Let me take with this instead. It actually messes up. And before the update, using undo there would have still worked, but since the update, you actually have to start over pretty much. You need to just not mess up, and everything will be fine. So after the month or two that was the main strat, and people were resetting over this pawn move at the start. This was the only other move that the CPU will do other than the rook. So if somebody saw this pawn move, they would just have to start over. But just today, actually, while I'm recording this, there was a new IL strat that was discovered by a Japanese player called Shogi. I hope I pronounced that right. And what they did was they decided to take this bishop instead of starting over. Something very crucial to note is that this pawn moved up and not this pawn. It's a very subtle difference. It doesn't seem like it matters, but it actually dictates which line is going to happen. Anyway, so what he did was he placed the silver here, which forced this gold to move here, and then placed the bishop and delivered a checkmate.
Check. Surrender.
And also the silver that we placed down covers the space for the king to run to. If we didn't place the silver, then the king would just go to the left, and it would be a sad failed attempt at getting a checkmate. So when this record had been set on the leaderboard, it was noticed by Aaron the winner, and he tried to replicate it, and basically he found that this pawn moved instead of this pawn for him. So when he took the silver here, this third pawn moved up instead of the silver over here moving, or the gold, or anything. He found these three pawns all moved up, and basically after you place down the bishop that you've taken, for some reason the silver moves here and it blocks the rook, and it blocks the king from running as well, and that is checkmate.
Surrender.
So this is actually a faster line than the record set by Schwarz. So Aaron got a high 27 with this strat to beat the 28 that was posted by Schwarz. And again, like the strat with the rook move, this line had one problem, and it was a late gold move. When I was testing Aaron's strat on stream, I couldn't really figure out a very fast way to back this up. Luckily Aaron was also in the chat, and he came up with his own backup strat for this as well, which is taking the gold, placing down the bishop over here, placing down the gold,
Check.
and then placing down the silver. This is actually my favourite strat
Surrender.
out of all of them that we have right now, because it just looks nice. It's aesthetically pleasing, and that is the last of the strats that you'll want to learn if you're going to use all of these. If you're going to do a all wins or all board games wins run. So to recap, I will just show you, I'll go on the fly here and just react to what the CPU does. Okay, he moves this first, so we take the bishop. The silver moves here, and the pawn moves here, which indicates that we're on the Schwarzy line, which means we place the silver here, and then place the bishop.
Check. Surrender.
And we'll go again.
Shall we play?
Another pawn move. This time this pawn moves instead of this one. And all 3 pawns moved, so therefore we can just place the bishop down straight away. And there's checkmate.
Surrender.
I'll insert the backup strat here over my improv because it's less likely to happen, but if the gold moves here, then you take it. And then we place the bishop. We just place all our pieces here.
Check.
Beautiful.
Check. Surrender.
We'll go a third time.
Shall we play?
This time the rook moved, so we do this.
Rook, bishop.
It's just always moving the bishop, whatever the CPU's move is now. So we take the rook, and this was the original strat from Ninworld.
Check. Surrender.
Again, I'll insert the backup strat, or if the gold moves late. It's like this, and then it's actually faster to take with bishop here.
Check. Surrender.
That's actually faster than the original Ninworld strat. Well, hopefully from watching this you can learn all of the strats that I use to beat Shogi. If you just remember the 2 different lines, but with certain backups in certain places. So there's the rook move with a backup, and then there's a pawn move line. There's a different pawn move line from Aaron depending on which pawn moves, and then there's a backup for Aaron's problem with his line. And that's it, that's all the strats, that's all the possible things that the CPU can do, so it's actually 100% consistent to beat Shogi in 8 moves or less on your part. You make 8 moves. So yeah, hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like on the video, and peace.